Well, glad to have you back. You're still watching Arise Prime Time with me, Ndi Amugo. Well, the rise in Nigeria's distribution company's DisCos revenue comes amid ongoing concerns about the estimated billing system and the quality of power supply, highlighting a disconnect between consumer satisfaction and the financial performance of DisCos. Here's a breakdown of the monthly revenue DisCos made in the first half of 2025. January, 178.68 billion, February 191.75, in March 188.89 billion, you can see that, April 199.85 billion, and in May 191.57 billion, in June 182.11 billion. Well, DisCos revenue rises from 810 billion naira to what we've just mentioned a while ago, and joining me on Arise Prime Time to examine how this increase in revenue and how unreliable power supply is affecting consumers who've grown over the high electricity tariff is Emeka Ojoro. He is the executive coordinator of NEPA WAHALA.ng, a consumer advocacy platform. Emeka, glad to have you join us on Prime Time. Glad to have you join us.
I'm glad to be on the program. Good evening.
Good. I'm
glad to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Let's just start with the increase in revenue of the DisCos. What do you make of the continuous increase in revenue in spite of Nigerians grappling with light?
Well, my quick answer to that would be that the increase would have been due to improved metering. There has been a recent presidential metering initiative. NECOS, the NERC also did metering exercise recently. I'm aware of customers around my area of operation, which is River State, who have received free meters. So that exercise would definitely improve the revenue assurance of a DisCos. It would also be due also to more areas having been migrated from the lower bands to band A. Band A is about 3 times higher than the next available band B, and the rest of them. So that moving more customers from lower bands to higher bands will also improve the revenue profile of the DisCos. However, my challenge with that improved revenue is that we are not seeing concomitant improvement in power supply. Okay, areas on lower bands, band B, D, C, D, and the rest of them are being arbitrarily moved without, first of all, having been an improvement in power supply. And even those customers who are on band A are not seeing a guaranteed 20-hour power supply, despite the very, very high bills that band A customers are paying.
Yes, in fact, recently...
So those are the factors in brief.
Yeah, because in fact, recently, I was kind of experiencing that too, being on the band A. What is NEPA WAHALA, your advocacy group, if anything, what are they doing about it?
What we're doing is engaging the regulator on behalf of the consumers, engaging in policy discussions with them, also articulating customers' concerns about these billing discrepancies. In the past several months, we've handled a few cases at the different NERC fora around Nigeria where we articulate these issues and let the regulator know that customers are being shortchanged by the DisCos. But the fact is that they know, right? But on my part, I feel that NERC has chosen to turn a blind eye to the fact that the DisCos are not really doing what they should do. We had a case recently where we were able to establish that an entire community had been shortchanged, right? From data that were extracted from the DisCos website, it was clearly demonstrated that these customers had not received commensurate supply. But despite this, they couldn't get redress from the regulator. So these are the issues that we keep on talking about at different fora where we engage with the regulators and the DisCos to see that customers, that the supply to customers improves.
Has anything come out of it? I mean, that will be Has anything come out of that particular advocacy? I mean, like giving them back the light or paying them back, something of the sort?
Well, on occasion, you will find where NERC publishes data where some of the DisCos have been penalized for wrongful billing of customers, and then direct the DisCos to refund those customers. In some instances, we've had cases where we have identified instances where the DisCos moved customers from the band where NERC had placed them, and then moved them to band A without NERC approval. So in those cases, refunds were done to those customers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, some energy analysts are not quite comfortable with the integrity of Nigeria's electricity banding system. They describe Band A, the classification, they're describing it as a scam that does not deliver on its promises. What's your sense?
I would agree almost 100% with them. Speaking from my personal experience, I'm on band A myself, and I can tell you that despite the high bills that I pay, I don't get commensurate service. It's better than lower bands, but it's not 20 hours per day. And the guarantee is that if you're paying those high bills, you must get 20 hours per day or be moved to a lower category. So I would say in practically all instances of band A billing, that 95% of customers on that band don't get 20 hours per day guaranteed supply.
Well, states are supposed to generate power within their domain after the signing of the Electricity Amendment Bill into law by the president. What's the state of this? Are the states now able to generate their own power?
No. The states are still working with the power being generated by the existing generating companies. Basically, what they are doing is taking control of regulation within their domains, but they don't really have that full legislative authority to do what they should do. Take the state of Enugu State recently that changed the band A tariff and reduced it, and it caused an uproar, right? NERC came out, condemned the exercise, and even the company now, which who they directed to lower their tariff, has come out to file a petition before the Enugu regulator saying that this tariff reduction was unjustified. It was not done in line with industry standards and processes. So even though, yes, de jure, some of the states have taken control, but until the states can actually generate their own power before they can regulate the prices that will be paid for that power, right? In a situation where the generation end is 100% controlled by the federal government and the generating companies, practically all the states that have taken control right now will not be able to exercise full control over their markets without going back time and time again to engage with the federal government, to engage with the national regulator before they can take any steps.
I know, now you've mentioned, I know that the federal government rose up in arms against the state, and in circles, the discussion was, look, if the state feel they can do this, why should the federal government be against the state or be against the states? I don't know what you make of that. If the states can handle it, why not? Why should the federal government be quarreling with the states who feel that the tariff should be brought low?
Well, because the state is not in charge of the entire value chain, that's where the problem comes. The federal government says they are paying a subsidy on generation, right? And then Enugu State, for the band A customers who are not supposed to be paying that subsidy, what Enugu State did was effectively to lead to revenue shortfall. So by reducing the tariff for band A customers to I think about 160, 150 thereabout, I've forgotten the exact rate, What they did was the money they had effectively put the federal government in a situation where they were again subsidizing that power, because Enugu was only looking at what regulating for what the distribution company would charge those customers. So except Enugu State and other states are willing to pay that subsidy for the Band A customers, then the federal government has every right to come out and say, hey, you can't do this. We are paying for this on the generation end, and these customers are supposed to pay back this monies. But if you say they don't pay, if you say that that this money that the Band A customer shouldn't pay it, then how do we handle this very huge subsidy of over 200 billion that we pay every month to the generation companies?
Oh, in other words, if the states can only do that if they agree to take the burden from the federal government. Otherwise, the federal government is on the right. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yes. Except the state is willing to handle the entire value chain from generation, system operation to distribution. But if the state is not prepared, if the state is not equipped, doesn't have the capacity to handle the entire value chain, then the state cannot fully handle the electricity market in its sector without reliance on the federal government.
Now, you talked about the fact that states do not yet have the power, or what you could call full autonomy, to generate their own power, and what's holding that?
Well, finances. Power generation comes at a steep cost, and ideally it's not something that state government should get into. When I say get into, I mean state government should engage in it by themselves, because we've seen the history when government gets into business. The business of government is to regulate business and not to do business. So power generation is a private sector activity. But if the private sector does not see a future in generation, in distribution, they will not get involved. Okay, so that's been the challenge of the power sector since the privatization exercise that we did back in 2003 or thereabout. Yeah, that's been the bane of the sector. Can I continue?
Yeah, continue, yeah.
Yes. So we have not been able to attract the needed investment in the sector because of inherent inefficiencies and lack of revenue assurance. If you've seen the instances that we've seen in the recent past where different DisCos are being taken over by their lenders, right, because they cannot service the facilities with which the private investors bought these DisCos. So that is a factor that will militate against fresh private sector investment at the state level. Okay, because they are looking at the entire sector. They are seeing the DisCos which are failing. Very, very few of them are solvent. The only DisCos which you could look at and say they have some measure of solvency are the DisCos in Lagos State, Ikeja Electric and Eko Electric. Every other DisCo is posting losses from inception till date. None of them have ever posted anything less than 40, 50, 60% ATC and C losses.
Now, Emeka,
so with these statistics, private, yes.
Yeah, I want to ask you this. I mean, from Obasanjo's time, it was unbundling of NEPA to PHC and Jonathan's privatization, and then, of course, the coming on board of this regime, and darkness still persists, even with a 5 times or thereabout increase. So are you then saying that the privatization was not done well, or because you're talking about funding, are you saying that the privatization was a useless venture, or the past governments didn't know what they were doing? What are you practically saying? Because the customers are getting a huge brunt negatively of this privatization in their pockets, emptying their pockets. But then these guys, like you're saying now, experiencing losses, even with a 5 times tariff. So paint the true picture of the privatization and what the government should be doing to get these things right.
You took the words out of my mouth, actually. The privatization, the exercise, well intended from the beginning, because as I said, the business of government is to regulate business and not to do business. But the exercise from beginning was fraught with all kinds of errors, right? From the unbundling, yes, but when it was unbundled and then you now created 11 DisCos and created virtual monopolies. Now, when you're doing this kind of thing, if you remember when in the telecom sector something similar was done and other players came into the sector, we saw the improvement in services, right? But in this situation, what the government did was just to create 11 replicas of NEPA and PHCN. You create 11 monopolies. Now, monopolistic systems are inherently inefficient. They will not deliver, and they are not responsive to customer agitation. So when you have the situation where customers are stuck with a particular company, you cannot move when the company is giving you bad service. What is the incentive for that company to improve on their services? There's none. So inherently from the beginning, the legislative framework was not proper. What this current regime has done by allowing other states to generate their own power, to regulate their own sector, is a step in the right direction. But there must be a template, a central template by which it is being done. You must have the right people in the right place, and then devoid of political sentiments. Power is a business, it's not politics. You must put the right people in the right places to take the right decisions, right? But over time, we have seen politics being played with power. We have seen square pegs in round holes, and it still persists till today. So whatever legislative changes that they may make, if the government is not sincere about solving the root problems, which is one, finding a workable model for the Nigerian electricity supply industry, putting the correct people in the right places, people who have experience in managing electricity systems, put them in place, empower them to work, let them do their job, right? Do not unnecessarily subordinate the regulator to the Ministry of Power. But the situation where the Minister of Power, who is a political appointee, is now giving directives over the industry regulator. If the industry is not insulated from political interference, serious investors will not get involved, right? Because the money that goes into power is not short-term funding. It's not money that you borrow on a 1, 2, 3, or 5 year tenor. It's money that is borrowed for 10, 15 years over the lifetime of a license. So, and for loans like this, typically they are always backed by certain forms of guarantees from the government. So, if the lenders are not sure that this thing is insulated from political interference, they will not put more money in the system. So, as you said, right from the beginning, the entire thing has been fraught with errors. The philosophies and principles by which it was done were erroneous. When the DisCos were created, some of the things that are being done now should have been embedded in the EPSRA then, right, so as to allow some form of liberalization and competition in the sector. You may have distribution companies, but you could have had sub-franchises, other companies being allowed to supply power to different areas of the state or different areas of the country, right, with a central distributor, so that there's some measure of competition in the sector, which in itself would have introduced some sanity for the sake for the benefit of consumers.
All right, Emeka.
Okay, so it's a hydra-headed monster.
Yeah. That's big grammar. All right, before I let you go, just under 2 minutes, see whether I can piece this together. How far has the National Integrated Electric Policy, the NIEP roadmap, gone in improving electricity supply? And the administration says this one, it wants to achieve 8,000 megawatts of electricity by 2027. Are they building skyscrapers on faulty foundation? Are they dreaming? Dreaming is good. Dreaming without a good.
It's
go on.
It's a dream. It's a dream, right? And the simple factor is this: for them to achieve that level of generation, the businessmen who will help to do that must be assured of revenue. And without adequate metering, they will not get involved. That's the bottom line, right? The government is talking about maybe 6-7 million customers in Nigeria. How realistic is that? We have 230 million people in this country, and they're working with a database of 6 to 7 million customers. How realistic is that? So without accurate data to make business decisions, whatever policy that they may come up with will remain, as you have said, a dream.
All right. Emeka Ojoro will leave it there. Executive Director of NEPA, WAHALA.ng. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Primetime. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.